same. We are all one individual part of a larger network. Well, then you see the flower of life. Like, you see that sacred geometry. When we can shift our perspective and say that, yes, sure, my spleen is on my left, and the foie, the liver is big, huge, gosh, what a huge organ under my right ribs. Like, yeah, that's asymmetrical. But then you link me with every other person in a human body, then that is the symmetry. That is that sacred geometry. That is that wholeness. Welcome to the Incoming Radiant Wellness Podcast, where intuitive movement educators Jem Burns and Stephanie Y. Jolivet help you to embody spiritual concepts in order to embrace your physio-energetic wholeness. And now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back, Radiant Beings, to another episode of The Incoming Radiant Wellness. I am Stephanie.
I am Jem.
And we are The Incoming. The Incoming is an intuitive community with embodiment tools to lead you to the life that you desire. And we just finished one of our yoga codes, yoga, blending embody brace movement classes and mirror work, leading you to your own glowing awareness. We just finished Fortify. And so we're taking a breather. We're coming here to come together, Gemini, and to serve you, of course, our community of radiant beings, the incoming, and to let you know that our next yoga code is Symmetry, and it's coming up in July real soon. So you can join the community for free and stay updated there. And so symmetry. Why are we moving into this code? And these codes are really initiations into a deeper level of consciousness. So every time you enter in, you move with me, you sit in front of the mirror with Jem, and then we come together in intentionality, in community, to all rise together. And it's all based around a particular theme. So the next one that we are doing, again, is symmetry. And so, Jem, I'm going to pass this on to you and your perspective with the mirror. Symmetry and the mirror. What is the importance? How do we use the mirror? And what do you see? What do you see as the blending and the power in this particular code of symmetry?
Yeah, the mirror itself is a portal, right? So I'm always talking about how does it amplifies everything that we do in the mirror. It's also a reflective source. So we're able to perceive ourselves in that moment in symmetry or in asymmetry. So that can link us into balance, movements where we can find balance, where we can find the fullness of the geometry, the shape that we're creating with our body, and how we're moving our hands. Are they moving in the same accordance? It's also a brain exercise, right? To create this place where the hemispheres are coming into congruence. And the mirror is the best place to see your own reflection and to see even in your body, in your posturing, like how are you holding yourself? How are you moving? Maybe you don't realize shoulders up, you know, so that with that reflective element, we're able to discern more, see more, observe more, and then from that position we can make changes, we can feel into what does it feel like to be in more symmetry or more asymmetry. So it's a lot of playfulness and also a lot of information that we're considering as we're moving through and utilizing this reflective portal, if you will, to embody our fullness, to embody the way in which we can perceive ourselves and the way in which we're moving in the world.
And I love that because you literally see yourself. And then, like you said, it's like, oh my gosh, this feels normal with my shoulder hiked up to my ear. I had no idea. So literally you get that like almost instantaneous, wow, period, full stop. And it's just such a beautiful way into building the articulation, like you said, the coherence with what we are seeing. Is what we are seeing a distortion, or is it the reality? And so we always, always, always here at the Incoming will lead you back to yourself. Every tool, every yoga code, every course is to hone your own calibration. Assuming that you are distorted is actually a good place to begin, because we are collective beings, and so the field is super distorted, and I see it because I'm so close in DC to like the 4th of July and all the stuff happening and people telling me all the things. So it's the field, the ether between all of us worldwide is distorted.
Yeah.
Because symmetry is not balanced. I say that to my clients often. It's like, listen, folks, we're looking for balance and harmony, not symmetry. Because like you have said, Jem, like our organs are not balanced inside of us. Our left and right, shoulders and hips, our fingers, our nose, our eyes see differently, just naturally. We naturally have a preference for one hand or the other, or one leg or the other. And then we have just conditioning of our bodies. We are asymmetrical by nature. So getting back to that distortion. The field is distorted. I know how to get myself back. And I know, Jem, you talk about this a lot. It's like, I might be knocked off, I'm in my wave, but boom, wow, do I know how to get myself back? And that is what we offer here at the Incoming. You back to you. And so now that I have a broader perspective, I can hear things coming at me, whether it's from a client, whether it's from my partner, from my kid, and be like, oh, that is a mirror. And that's, is it a distortion? No, because I can accept it for what it is. Kids are great mirrors, and they see and they say. Very little filter. It's beautiful. And if you are not in coherence, then it's going to be more difficult to stand in presence, to stand in balance without that wobble. Really what the first step, and maybe the last step, is to notice. To notice that there is a difference, to honor the difference in your body, because if you begin to honor the difference internally in your body and externally with your reflection, then wow, will you be able to honor the differences and asymmetries energetically, physically, politically, culturally, in everybody else.
That's so accurate. It feels so vibrant too, as a thread of what we're able to hold and what we're able to give, to offer to the collective, is that centering. It's really like in the symmetry of a figure 8, there is a center point, right? And that center point is also the center point of you, the channel that runs through you, and that toroidal field is also similar to a figure 8. So the more that you come into that coherence, that awareness of that center, it is like that, like a kid or a comment or whoever is not going to knock you off your center. Those are old patterns that we drift into because we are mirrors of each other, and we are in the conditioning of each other, and we're in the soup, right? We're in the soup of all of the energy that is around, in and around us, with others, especially the ones that are close to us in life. And in that way, we're coalescing, right? So how do you not coalesce, or how do you know that you're the tomato in the soup, right? You have to belong to your own energy, belong to your own self. And a lot of it is dropping into presence, because that's where you're going to develop the awareness to see, is this a distortion? Is this a truth? Maybe just from those two, you'll be able to process and move in a different way in the world. There's a lot of wobbling. I'm also a water sign, so I'm a very fluid person, and so I never really feel like I'm still, or I'm in this like clear moment. It's always like, ah! And so how do I ride that symmetry, or that figure 8? It's where I know where I am on the 8, so that I can know where I'm going to thread through, right? And it's like, okay, it's going to come to pass, and then it's going to go. Sometimes it requires a lot of patience. Sometimes it requires me to understand myself. in my own energy. Sometimes it means that I need to take a break from everything else and be in my own energy to re-engage with that is what I am, you know, to feel that fullness of me without being intermixed with other people or online. Even that is an intermixing with people, a place that we're going to find these connections, right? But how do we connect to ourselves? We have to take the time, we have to spend the time. It's any relationship, right? We're spending the time, we're honoring that time. I do it in the mirror in a devotional, a very ritual aspect, because in that way, I'm giving myself, I'm receiving for myself, even by just sitting with myself. It's a huge win, because just to sit with myself in the mirror and carry all the reflections, either I'm going to get or I'm going to give, you know, and it's probably going to be both, because as you're projecting whatever, oh, I'm aging and I'm this and my skin and whatever, you're also going to be receiving. And that's a learned thing that we're doing in the mirror, is to like really be able to receive the truth of who we are, right? And that truth, I always am relaying it to the windows of the soul are here in the eyes, right? So when we can find that space of love and intrigue here, it doesn't really matter about the rest. We think it matters because we're in the soup of conditioning and what is the standard of beauty, and what is the standard of, especially for women, what is the standards here to belong, to fit in, right? But we fit in just because we're here, right? So there's a different aspect of you're worthy just to be here, but a lot of us are still working through how do I belong to this place, how do I belong to this soup, to these people, unless I'm doing something or unless I'm carrying something. But is it enough to sit with yourself and to become the self, become who you're here, because you're different than any other frequency, any other being that's ever been on the earth. You are different. That's why our fingerprints are so unique, right? It's why would you want to be like somebody else? But we are coalescing, right? So our work is really to become. And to become, we have to know, we have to have the reference points of the self to inherit that center point, that central point, that channel that allows us to feel aligned and expressing in our radiance.
And that center point, oh my gosh, so many beautiful threads there, sis. Thank you for that. I'm just gonna maybe take a moment for us to just integrate it. Take a breath is the best way to center, best way to slow down. And that center point, if we think of our energy centers, is the heart. So that once you can sit with yourself in the mirror, and once you can move with yourself and all of its experiences, your right hip different than your left hip, left finger, right nostril, it's all different. So once you can cohere, so I'm again coming back to, we're talking about symmetry. What is it? The only way that I know what it is actually through asymmetry. So I know like this nostril is different than that one, so that for me is asymmetrical. And dropping into the body, like we said earlier, our organs, not symmetrical, not the same on either side, everything. Like our brains carry different information in each hemisphere. So it actually seems to be, wow, it's asymmetry that we're looking for. And within that asymmetry is the coherence of the heart, which again is the center place of the upper chakras and lower chakras. And once we can cohere to our heart, then looking at yourself in the mirror is no longer about judgment. Then moving your body is no longer about how can I change my body and how can I change the aesthetic of it. It is like you just said, Jem, it is to become cohered to and with the heart.
To get to balance is this similar thought of, or similar thread of asymmetry, because we are asymmetrical. We can move very asymmetrically, right? So why we're talking about symmetry is because symmetry is the coherence, is the registration of, especially in the energetic body, right? Because the energetic body is a toroidal structure. In many shapes in sacred geometry are very symmetrical. They're very defined. Even our DNA is very precise in its formation, that would appear like the strands are very symmetrical, right? They're moving in this way. And in the smallest macro bit of us, we are made of all of those components. The body itself is the energy compressed into the most dense form of the energy expression, but the energy is out here as well. And so those things, those pains, those hurts, those fears, even thoughts, can create that wobbly expression of the energy that makes it more of this, almost like a golf ball or something that has all these divots, and how that might roll versus a ball that's more like a lacrosse ball, right? So it's just a distinction, and you might be feeling that in your life of your experiences, what's coming in, what is being reflected to you. Maybe you are getting all of these projections from people that, wait, why is this? Why are they saying this about me? Why? Like, understanding it not from an accusatory way, but from a way of seeing what's registering in your field to be a magnet for these kinds of balances or imbalances to perceive, to change, to evolve, right? So we're all here on this evolution, this journey of evolution, where we are moving towards whatever that means for you. It doesn't necessarily mean ascension. It can just be an evolution of the spirit, a learning, a lesson, a climb through life. Could be just the years that you're living. That is an evolution in and of itself. So it's this looping that we're finding, and finding ourselves in that sacred geometry, that space of recognition of the shape itself, and of where we are in that moment, or in that circumference of the shape, if we're moving into a coherence, moving into that center point of stillness, of wholeness, of knowingness. That's the part where we become.
I love that you dropped into sacred geometry. Even symmetry, geometry, symmetry, sacred geometry. And as you were talking, I was just, maybe it's because you were also telling me that you're mountainous. And I was thinking of seeing Denali in the distance, and it looks perfectly smooth, and it has this curve up and down, even if it's not perfectly symmetrical. There's a smooth, like, you can see the perfection. And then once I actually hiked Mount Whitney many, many years ago. And if you don't know what that is, it's the highest point in the contiguous states. And we won the lottery. We won the lottery, and we got to go hike, and it was the coolest thing. But it's the same thing. You see the peak, and it looks like perfect and symmetrical, and it is the sacred geometry. And then you get into it, and you're like, wow, this is craggy. This goes back and forth, and it's comprised of all these asymmetries. And so it does, like, bringing us back to the beginning of what Jem was saying, like, the perspective. When you zoom out, and I was even thinking of, like, zooming out of your own perspective, your own body, and realizing and understanding and embodying that we are all one individual part of a larger network. Well, then you see the flower of life. Like, you see that sacred geometry. When we can shift our perspective and say that, yes, sure, my spleen is on my left, and the foie, the liver is big, huge. Gosh, what a huge organ under my right ribs. Like, yeah, that's asymmetrical. But then you link me with every other person in a human body, then that is the symmetry. That is that sacred geometry. That is that wholeness. So it's it's such a perhaps reframe, and then it really is this beautiful way of coming into your own asymmetry, your own coherence, to then be able in a lot of ways to zoom out and then see that you are part of this larger perfection, this larger symmetry, this larger sacred geometry. And I love that you reminded us, Jem, that yeah, like we are condensed matter. So that sacred geometry of the figure eight, for example, that exists, or the helix, that spiral, that is, it's like smushed, it's compressed, it's into every of our trillion cells. And wow, what a thought. Like, I don't really understand it, but I can feel it. We can't understand it, actually. We're not meant for our brain. It's so powerful. We're not meant to understand. We're meant, like, I'm getting goosebumps. I feel like I'm being activated just by talking about this, and like feeling the density, and like, oh my gosh, there's trillions of perfect sacred geometries in my body, like it's and in your body, and that we have access to with beautiful movement, that we have access to with practices where we really look at ourselves like mirror work and face ourselves as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that subatomic realm where we're going really in, really deep, but that also is the extent of the universe outside, right? So we're connected to that as well. And so that little part of us is just an expression of that field and the energy that we are all encompassed in. And so it feels like in that symmetry, there is a belonging, right? Because we are a reflection of the divine, and in the way that we are walking and expressing and becoming ourselves out in the world and sharing ourselves really and truly. You talked about our heart-centered mission, our heart-centered service. We're moving from the head to the heart, and when we're in this offering of service, it's not because I'm here and I want to be of service. It's because I feel that I am service, right? It's I am service. What am I here to do? We all are, right? But it's this space of really coming into your gifts and what you're here to do and how you're here to spread your message or be a part of something. You know, we also are very much in this you don't have to do it alone vibe here, where we've come together through our own friendship and sisterhood and business to become even bigger than ourselves. And in that uniting field, there is a symmetry. Even though we're both really different, you know, it brings us into symmetry. It braids us into something larger than what we are. And there's just such a beautiful aspect of that I can appreciate from my macro lens or my perspective here, because Stephanie actually comes next to me, and then it like broadens my way of seeing, of being, because we are holding differences, because we are asymmetrically intertwining to become the balance, right? So it's a little bit of a brain twister, but that feeling or that sense of movement, of reflection, of seeing, bringing into that coherence. How do we find symmetry through asymmetry, right? We're going to move through these ways that are going to lend our body to bring that awareness, so that we can hold that awareness. Then we can see and observe where our body is in space and time. And through that awareness, we're developing the reference points so that I can hold my body in a deeper posture or positioning. And then that is how I ignite myself in the world. I move as that gem that's holding herself, that's heart is forward and out and placed for all of you to witness and be a reflection of that as well.
I'm just feeling when you bring yourself into heart coherence, then, like you said, Jem, that heart coherence exists between another and another and another. And it's, again, this beautiful figure eight, this braid. And thank you for sharing that. It's just so powerful. Friends, thank you for being here. Join our Symmetry Code, our yoga code. It is coming up in July. And really just sending you so much love, friends. The more we can come together in community, like Jem said, and not do it alone. Like let's lovingly wrap that narrative up and put it on a shelf so that so it can gather dust, and that then we can come together from the heart. So that is what we are offering in this yoga code coming up. So, gros bisous from me.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the Incoming Radiant Wellness Podcast. If our vibration resonates with you, subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you would like to join our community, theincoming.co, click the link in the description to gain exclusive access to our weekly classes, monthly offerings, intensives, and courses. Until next time, shine bright, radiant beings.